A lot of times there's a stigma associated with AA, and there still is, And if you can get over that aspect of it, and if you're considering it, probably at the point where some of your life is unmanageable, you're up against a rock and a hard place at this point. If there's just a chance for it to help, why not try it?
I heard it through the grapevine.
Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine half-hour variety hour featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Sam, an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
And I am Alice, an alcoholic in Oakland, California.
Hey, Alice, what's going on?
Hey, Sam! You know what it is? It's the beginning of the holiday season, Sam.
Oh, yes, it is.
You know, it's such a tricky time of year, don't you think?
It can be. It's not a tricky time of year for me now, but in early sobriety, it was. One of the things that happened to me with holidays was I just didn't know what to do with me. I had this Monday through Friday schedule of get up, go to work, go home, go to a meeting. That was fantastic. And then I had my weekend schedules of get up, go to a morning meeting and do whatever needs to be done, go to the evening meeting, go to a Sunday meeting. But then you threw in this holiday.
Yeah.
I don't have a routine for this. What do I do?
I started drinking at 4 years old, and at 8 I was drinking scotch, and 13 I'm in bars. And so my whole social life, my whole life was around drinking. The holidays were a big drinking party time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got sober and I was like day counting and month counting, like that first year, man, like the first Halloween, the first Thanksgiving, the first Christmas, the first New Year's, it just was rough because I didn't really, A, have a solid sober network,
Mm-hmm.
and B, I didn't know how to go around people that were drinking. I didn't know that what people drink doesn't get me drunk, right? I didn't know how to do it. And so there are some things I think that are really important for us to do in early sobriety.
There's one that really stands out to me. It's actually two words that are really sneaky ones. The words are just and only.
That's right.
I only have 4 months.
That's
I
right.
just have 28 days.
Yeah.
They're reservations.
And
Yeah.
my goal is to stand in the sunlight of the Spirit and to be grateful for the blessings in my life, right? When I say only and just, it's like I'm poo-pooing the miracle of not being drunk today.
Yeah, I'm minimizing it.
Yeah.
I only have 4 months is akin to saying it's only 4 months, so if I drink, it's really not that big of a deal.
I played the not today game. I'm not going to drink today, but if drinking came to me, I'd be like, you could drink tomorrow. And then when I got tomorrow was today. And then I was like, just don't drink today. And we've got to really celebrate those moments of not drinking. Don't say only, don't say just. Say, wow, it's a miracle. I haven't had a drink in.
Yeah. And as the holidays are here, we'll also be talking on the podcast about little things that we've learned about how to navigate these things, these holiday parties and these, work events and, family get-togethers. All these firsts in sobriety can be really tricky. And so it's always good to have a plan before you arrive.
But know when you look around Alcoholics Anonymous that there are so many of us that have figured out how to do it. And all you have to do is ask us. We're more than happy to help you figure out a set of strategies that'll help you through the holiday season.
Absolutely.
And by the way, happy Halloween. I have to just admit that I love Halloween and I get dressed up for Halloween. I've been the Bride of Frankenstein. I've been the Ice Queen. I've been Wolverine or like Wolverina. Like I love the holidays.
I'm going to start calling you Wolfie.
Wolfie. So I want to get to the meat and potatoes of our podcast today.
Yes.
Which is our guest, Aaron, who's in Prescott, really Prescott, but do not tell the people in Arizona that. Prescott, Arizona. And afterwards, we're going to get a newcomer asked question to talk about. But first, the news.
The news. The Grapevine magazine is holding its annual photo contest. Each year, we hold a competition for members' photos to be featured in our wall calendar. Send your most striking, high-res 300 DPI photos that reflect the joy of living, serenity, and other sobriety themes. Contributors of selected photos will receive complimentary copies of the calendar and pocket planner. The deadline is December 1st, 2024, and more details are at aagrapevine.org/photo contest. And if you don't know what 300 DPI is, just send us the biggest copy of the photo that you got. Here's a quick conversation between Alice and Vera about a new pamphlet.
My name is Vera and I'm an alcoholic.
You've got great news for us. Our new pamphlet, Black in AA, Experience, Strength, and Hope. Tell us why that pamphlet and who it's for.
The 71st General Service Conference given direction that the Black and African American alcoholic pamphlet be updated to include fresh stories and a new title.
So there was already a pamphlet.
So the chair of the Trustees Literature Committee asked me if I would establish and lead the implementation of updating this pamphlet.
What an incredible honor, Vera.
I cried, Alice. I cried. I had no idea that this was going to happen in my service time and that I would be, it touched me deeply to be given such a profound responsibility.
What position are you in the general service structure?
I was a member of the Trustees Literature Committee for 3 years. I had the honor and privilege to be a part of committees for the Plain Language Big Book. Was involved in the 5th edition for the Big Book, and I was involved in this pamphlet and several other literature-related things, being a member of the Trustees Literature Committee.
This process of engaging the membership is critical. Is that true across all of the publications that you've just mentioned?
It is. We've gotten a lot better at not just having a group of people who are not even part of the audience drive these projects. We have done that with the deaf community to get ASL resources for the deaf community. We have engaged Indigenous people for the new pamphlet coming out for Native American and Indigenous people. We did the same thing with the LGBTQ community. So we've gotten better with that. Back in the day when this pamphlet came out, I think it was 2001 or something, there was nobody from our community on that committee. And all of that was done by—
Wait a minute. Wait. Stop the press. You're telling me it was a pamphlet about Black people and African Americans, and there were no Black people or African Americans involved?
Correct.
Wow, we have come a long way.
Now the stories came, when they collected the stories.
Yeah.
But in terms of, running the project, editing the project, the graphics and all the design, no.
That matters.
Yeah. The committee's hope for this pamphlet would be that it would be a resource in helping Black alcoholics, obviously, to provide identification for the new or the potential or the questioning Black alcoholic. And we're striving to demonstrate to newcomers that if they have a desire to stop drinking, they are welcome.
That's right.
Needed and wanted and accepted. And this is important because the reality is that some Black and brown folks, alcoholics, have shared their experience of racist behavior in meetings, in the rooms of AA. And members have shared that these experiences of being mistreated and called out of their name based on skin color directly affected whether they stayed or not.
Right.
And the stories in this pamphlet speak about their shared experience of overcoming many barriers, and certainly that being one of them.
I mean, certainly as a Black woman, I've experienced racism in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been yelled at. I've never been called out of my name, but I mean, everything kind of sort of but a child of God. Have you had the experience of facing any kind of overt discrimination in Alcoholics Anonymous as a Black woman?
I have been called out of my name. I've been also suggested that I might want to go to the meeting over there. To the meeting where they are, because you might feel more comfortable
over there.
Yeah. I've been in online meetings where the N-word comes up on the screen, racist and comments in the chat.
I mean, I've had that experience too. Well, those are bombers. Those are not members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And
here's the thing, though. It is the home groups, members of Alcoholics Anonymous, who are responsible for maintaining the safety and integrity of the meeting.
Absolutely.
And not condoning that behavior. So therefore, don't poo-poo it. Don't act like it doesn't matter, because it does.
Yeah. Let's don't step over it. Let's acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Yes.
So how many stories are in the pamphlet?
I believe there's 12.
Woohoo!
We had collected around 100 stories And through a process of evaluating and, rating system that we developed, looking at specific criteria, which the main one was sharing experience, strength, and hope, the message of recovery from the disease of alcoholism, using the 12 steps, the practices and the preachings and the teachings of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's
Yeah.
the main thing, right? That, keeping the main thing, and
Yep.
then going from there.
Alcoholics Anonymous does the survey. And when I see the demographic profile of Alcoholics Anonymous, it hasn't really changed in the 37 years I've been here, right? It's still overwhelmingly a older white male program.
Right.
And it's not that other people, women, Hispanic people, Native people, Asian people, don't suffer alcoholism. It's that we're not represented demographically in the way that we are in the overall population. So is this pamphlet an effort to begin to redress the imbalance, the underrepresentation in the rooms?
Well, that is the hope. The committee, as we were doing our work, sees this pamphlet having a few applications. And one is for the professionals that we as potential alcoholics come in contact with: social workers, hospitals, police, nurses, doctors, lawyers, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Especially in the Black community, alcoholism is rampant. It is alive. It is a thing. But talking about it and acknowledging it can be difficult. A is often seen as the program for white people.
Yes.
So the hope is that we can put this in the hands of more of our folks so they can see that it's not just for white people. AA is for everyone, and you have a place in here.
So the courts send people to Alcoholics Anonymous if they're white, and they send them to the other NA if they're Black, which is like stunning to me.
And that's why I'm particularly grateful for the piece in the pamphlet about the history of Black alcoholics in AA, so they can show we have been here all the time.
I heard you say two target populations, Black people and the professional community. Are there other audiences?
Yes, many Black alcoholics are sponsored by white alcoholics. And we thought that some of the white alcoholics or people, anyone who sponsors anyone, could benefit from this pamphlet in their 12-step work.
Yeah.
It can go a long way in helping those sponsors understand that their sponsees may have life experiences, cultural background, cultural challenges that they themselves may not be familiar with, like churches, government, and marriages. The institution of racism is often ends up on the 4 steps of Black alcoholics.
Absolutely 100%. In the 12-step work, in the spiritual journey that we're on, one of the important parts of the work is to not see yourself as other.
Right.
To not think that you're a victim.
Right.
It becomes very tricky as an African American person, particularly as a person who lives in a country that is built on the bodies of formerly enslaved people.
Yes.
And so it's a very nuanced balance. And I love that the pamphlet is designed to help non-Black people understand the experience of Black people in Alcoholics Anonymous so that we can be better fellows, better sponsors, better friends.
Yeah. And, it's in alignment with other, what I call third tradition pamphlets that we have, right? Young people in AA.
That's right.
AA for the older alcoholic. Many paths of spirituality. The God Word pamphlet.
Yeah.
I mean, those are third tradition pamphlets. Those are pamphlets that help with initial identification so that you can come in and see, oh, it's okay to be here, and I'm an alcoholic too.
Will you close us out with sharing why this matters to you personally?
That's a big one. As a matter of fact, this past 48 hours, I've had one of those moments, those full circle moments. You often hear in the meetings, I want AA to be here for my kids, for my grandkids, my family.
Yeah.
And I helped my cousin to get to a program. I printed out this pamphlet and I gave it to him on his way to rehab this morning. This morning, Alice, I had a full circle moment of deep gratitude that I can give him this thing so he can see himself and know that he belongs here. That is not coming from just me, that we have a family illness, but we also have a solution.
Absolutely.
To our alcoholism.
And that You are a part of the family in Alcoholics Anonymous, regardless of your race, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your religious views. You are welcomed. How do you say it? Welcomed, valued, needed,
And wanted.
and wanted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice.
What are the Grapevine's most popular books? Emotional Sobriety 1 and 2. Both are filled with experiences by sober AA members, many with long-term sobriety, about the positive transformations we can achieve by practicing the principles of the program in all aspects of our lives. The stories show how the rewards are serenity, emotional balance, and an increased joy for living. Visit aagrapevine.org/books.
Hi, my name is Aaron B. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is November 26th of 2009. So God willing, a little bit later this year, I'll have 15 years.
Sweet.
Currently living in Prescott, Arizona, having lived in Phoenix for about 25 years. It's where I got sober. I have a great home group called Awatuki Men's Group.
Ooh, now say that again.
Awatuki Men's Group. So Awatuki is an Indian tribe. It's a Phoenix address, but we're a little bit bougie out in Awatuki, so it's Awatuki Men's Group. But it's a big men's group. Meets on Saturday mornings. Been my home group since day one.
Ah.
My first and second sponsor came out of that group.
Well, it sounds like when you walked into that meeting, you saw something, heard something that you wanted.
Oh, I wanted so badly to be sober. I didn't want to drink anymore. I could feel, my insides rotting away. I had zero friends. I'd alienated my family, and I didn't think there was any hope. And I'm stubborn even by alcoholic standards, and it still took a couple years of going to 3 meetings a week for me to actually put the plug in the jug. And if the euphemism for coming in and going out is retread, I'm the guy that spun around on bald tires for 2 years.
Gotcha.
I had that belly full of beer and head full of AA, Jekyll and Hyde syndrome for quite a while.
But the beauty of this deal, Aaron, is that you're still a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, even with a belly full of beer. You've only got to have a desire to stop drinking, and we welcome you in Alcoholics Anonymous.
It's a good thing that's the way it is too. My stops and starts, I had quite a few of them before I finally got some traction. What was going on, Aaron, when you got traction, when you finally let go, stopped drinking?
Well, I'd always been a novice studier of religion. The story is before program, I believed in God, but I wasn't very religious, right?
Okay.
I believed in a very kind of apathetic God that just kind of wound up the universe and let it go. And I couldn't participate and have input into any of that. And slowly over time, in those 2 years of coming into the rooms and learning what's worked for other individuals and how they handle their spirituality, made me dive deeper into some of these studies. And it wasn't just study the book studies, right? I actually put time in. I've been to hundreds of Catholic masses. I've been to synagogue. I've been to LDS, Latter-day Saints Church for 3 years. Not only did I have the book knowledge, I had the time in as well. And the definition of agnostic is without knowledge. And I'm like, well, certainly that's not me, right? I've studied the books. I've been boots on the ground. Certainly that's not me. And then the time frame of when I actually got sober, I was in a dark place. It was easy to lie to my sponsor and to the rooms and to the family. That was easy. I've been doing it for years.
And when you say lie, Aaron, what were you lying about?
My sobriety. I had told everybody I'd stopped drinking, but I was learning about the steps. I was reading the book.
Yep.
I'm a quick study, so I could talk a good game. But I was that Jekyll and Hyde. I'd look into the mirror and not like what was looking back at me. And it got to be a little bit of a crazy, insane moment for me. I'm me. How can I lie to me? I can't lie to me. I'm me.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was a very confusing. And then the moment that I was able to actually put the plug in the jug was I realized, you can't pull the wool over God's eyes. At that point, God became a buddy of mine, right?
Hmm.
Before this, I wasn't rubbing shoulders with God, right? God's way up here and I'm way down
Yeah.
here. And if there's one person on the planet that I knew God had it out for, I knew who that guy was. It was me.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I kind of got shoulder to shoulder and keep hitting the same pothole over and over, or keep running into the same brick wall over and over. I was able to pause and, hey, God, I see you put a pothole in front of me. What would you have me do? Would you have me jump
Yeah.
over or go to the right, or do you still want me to hit it
Ah.
straight on? What is your will for me? And all of a sudden, I wasn't hitting as many potholes, and I wasn't running into the same brick walls that I was.
Mhm.
And I can kind of put my arm around God's shoulders and then say, have gratitude and thanks. And I said, man, in the equation of life, whatever equation comes in front of me, if I just remove me from the equation and insert God into the
Yeah.
equation, oh man, that solution is so much better because I would mess up just about everything.
So this experience of a new relationship with God, are you religious today or is it something new?
I wouldn't say frequently, but every so often I do circle around and explore religion.
Mhm.
Some of my best friends, are religious, and so I'll consult with them and dip my toe into it a little bit and
Yeah.
ask about it. But for me, I get hung up on the question that a lot of people have is, if this religion is correct, it excludes all the other religions a lot of times.
Yeah.
So it's very divisive. I'm spiritual, I pray, I believe in God. I guess for me, essentially, I believe religion is a man-made thing to explain something we can't explain. And I still believe in the things that we can't explain. And it could be something as simple as, why do bad things happen and so
Yeah.
forth. For me, it's just a fascinating study because
Mm.
when it comes to monotheism and polytheism, believing in many gods and, even the Aztec religion, they had human sacrifice as part of their religion. And I'm like, well, let's bring that back. There's a lot of there's drivers
Yeah.
out there on the road. I would just,
So funny. Yeah.
Yeah, there
yeah,
are some days when I'm on the road that I could definitely envision doing some of that.
survival of the fittest.
Aaron, I'm struck by you saying it was the pause,
Mm.
right? And when we read the second appendices, the spiritual experience, it says, hey, look, we may have led you astray here. We didn't mean to say it's all bright light. That sometimes we come to it slowly. And sometimes I just change the way that I relate to the power I believe in.
Or maybe I change the way I relate to the powers that I was taught. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist who is spiritual. I pray. I have no clue. I don't need to know what I'm doing it to or anything. It's working for me. And I don't need to get into that fight with anybody. I'm not going to as to who's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I also don't need to define what a higher power is for me. And I say God because it's a fantastic shortcut. It's shorthand. You don't need to know what I mean when I say the word God, and I don't need to know what you mean when you say the word God.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that 100%. So the word God is just the shared term that we all use to describe everything. Or
Everything.
I have worked with a number of atheistic and agnostic sponsees and getting them through that word choice. You don't really have to use that word.
Yep.
There's, as many ways to work the program of AA as there are alcoholics in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the guy taking somebody off to the side after the meeting and saying, hey, we kind of steer away from this
Mm-hmm.
because, we want to, we're an operation to help get sick alcoholics well and sober.
The beauty of Alcoholics Anonymous is you get to choose your own understanding of the power. It doesn't need to be what I grew up with. It doesn't need to be what's in a church. It can be whatever you feel right about. And that's, I think, so different than many religions. And the part that always irritates me about it is, how do you know? You're telling me that your religion's right and the other people are wrong. But I mean, honestly, how do you know? And just being open-minded, just being accepting, I think is the way to go. And I think it's, generally speaking, the Alcoholics Anonymous way, that we're accepting. If you're a Wiccan, yay. If you're a devout Catholic, yay. It doesn't matter to me. The one thing I believe is I'm not God.
I need to accept my changing views.
Yeah.
My experience of higher power over these past 20 plus years of being active in AA, they have evolved and they will. I have no reason to believe that they're not going to continue to evolve.
Absolutely. I believe something different today than I believed when I got here. You know, Aaron, for you, I've not done what you've done deep dives into different religions, different spiritual practices. How have you used all of that learning?
I love to learn things when it comes to either religion or technology or I'm a chef by trade. I was a chef for 30 years, so it was something new about culinary field. I just love the knowledge. Most, if not all religions have that great camaraderie and everyone working in unison to do good things and to better themselves and their family. But unfortunately, since we're human beings, I think most, if not all religions, have their shortcomings, right?
Hmm.
There's a fantastic joke. Can I tell a joke that really kind of describes where I came
We
from?
love jokes.
So the old timer starts talking to the newcomer atheist, and the old timer says, you got to take step three. And the young guy says, oh, I can't do that, old man. I don't believe in God. And the old man says, oh, you don't need to believe in God to take step three. I'll tell you what, I guarantee you a miracle will happen if you turn your will and your life over to the care of this here chair I'm sitting on. And the young guy rolls his eyes. He's like, oh man, I don't believe in God and I don't believe in miracles. Please just leave me alone. But the old man was persistent and he asked again. And he finally wore the newcomer down, the atheist, and he goes, okay. And he rolls his eyes. I turn my will and my life over to the care of this chair. And the old man gets this big smile on his face. And he says, congratulations. The miracle is there's no longer an idiot running your life. And I couldn't argue with that. If you would have seen me before I came into the program, this chair I'm sitting on was making better decisions than me.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the truth for all of us.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
You said that you are a chef of 30 years, correct?
Yes.
All right. So alcohol tends to go hand in hand with the culinary arts. How, as a sober chef, do you navigate alcohol?
Oh, that's a great question, Sam. Yes, my story. I've been in food and beverage, heavy emphasis on the beverage. The industry is also known for other recreational, mind-altering things.
Yes.
It's really kind of how it started. I was cooking in high school before I went to culinary school. And even at that time, I was 17, 18 years old, working at a full-service restaurant, flipping steaks on the grill. And the bartender would come back with a couple of pitchers of beer, says, here you go, boys, here's your next round. And we would drink and cook and clean the kitchen and close the place down and then migrate up to the bar and pull our own drafts. Yeah, it was tied together for a long time. My culinary career wound down. Fortunately, I'm one of those alcoholics that I'd never had a problem being around alcohol after I got sober, whether it was in a grocery store or at a bar. I'd still go up to the bar if I was by myself to order a meal and have a club soda or so. And also cooking with it. When you use an alcohol with cooking, it burns off. And again, a lot of it goes to intent. You hear the stories of somebody saying, "Oh, I took a sip of a drink I didn't think had alcohol in it, and it did, and I accidentally swallowed it. Do I have to reset my sobriety date?" And my opinion, but no, because the intent wasn't to drink, right? A lot goes behind intent.
I appreciate the intent part. In early sobriety, I went into a chocolate shop and they offered me a chocolate as a sample, gobbled it up, and there was liqueur in it. And I spit it out. It wasn't my intent to do it, and so it didn't impact my date. But for the listeners, I do want to just say that, am I eating the pasta sauce penne with vodka sauce because I'm trying to get drunk? Because that's a lot of pasta you're going to eat. Or is that my intent, right? So I mostly avoid anything with liquor in it because I want to live clean. But, if I go someplace and there's some liquor in something, I'll avoid it if I know. But if I don't and I eat it, I'm not beating myself up about that.
Sure, alcohol is just the symptom. Are you good with God?
Bam.
I was at a family Thanksgiving thing that, we've got little kids running around, and this is not really a drinking family. And there's this fantastic giant cake that's for dessert. And I got a slice of it. Everybody's getting a slice of it. And I take a bite of it, and my face flushed. It was soaked with so much alcohol and completely unexpected. I slid my slice over to my mother. She took care of it for me. But for me, it was a shock.
Mhm.
I talked with my sponsor about it, and she gave me some fantastic advice at that moment, which is just pay attention to your thinking over the next few days. See if anything comes up from having introduced that to your system.
Yep.
It's a good idea to ask about desserts in particular.
It's out there. One of the things I like to do is when I do yard work and mow the yard, I would have an ice cold Heineken afterwards. And one day a Heineken commercial came on, and I pinged on it, right? My brain said, "Whoa, hey now." It was fleeting, but I called my sponsor, and Tim is so funny. He goes, "Yeah, did it look delicious and refreshing?" I said, "Yes, it did." He says, "Those marketers, they're doing their job really well. They do a good job."
They do a good job. Yeah, yeah. We're in a society where drinking is glamorized. I grew up watching Betty Davis movies, and there was always a cocktail. And so it's not just now, it's always been, I think, a part of our culture. And they can market to their heart's content. But the truth is that I've already walked to the gates of hell. I already know what happens when I do that. I've got to have a lifestyle and a network of people who keep me on the straight and narrow, so to speak. I love that you call your sponsor. And Tim's funny. Those marketers are doing a good job, aren't they?
It's time for the Ask It Basket.
What's that?
That's the name Bill W. gave the basket that was passed around for questions. We want your questions for our guests.
General recovery questions, newcomer questions, AA history.
Got a question for the Ask It Basket? Go to aagrapevine.org and click on podcast.
And now let's dip into the basket.
So we received a letter from Rebecca W. with the subject, "Are there sponsor meetings?"
Rebecca writes, "Hello, Alice, Don, and Sam, Grapevine podcast crew. I have a question for you. Maybe here in Germany, because English-speaking meetings are limited, I was wondering if there is such a thing as sponsor-specific meetings. The reason I ask is that I'm newish. I still have not completed my steps, but I have 1 year and about 5 months. And during some meetings, I have heard people's shares and how they are frustrated at their sponsees. The sponsor thinks, do I have to answer the phone only to know what they're going to say? This shook me to my core. I then truly did not want to call anyone, thinking they would have this thought about my call, or worried I was bothering them. I know. A meeting is a time for sharing on everything that is affecting their alcoholism, but I can't help but wonder if there is another space or time other than in a meeting for sponsors to share instead of where there might be potential newcomers or returners. Many thanks for your amazing podcast and the magazine, your dog walking fellow in Germany, Rebecca W. Rebecca, thank you so much for this question. We're going to have fun with this. Let's go.
Oh my God, Rebecca, I love you for this. So I don't know of any sponsor-specific meetings, but I'll say this. My only purpose in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous is to share a message of hope and recovery, to share with people how you get to joy, freedom, and happiness. And if I'm frustrated about a sponsee, I call my sponsor. The sponsor meeting I have is with my sponsor. And I am careful about not saying anything in a meeting that would discourage a newcomer from feeling like they're always welcome to call anytime about anything. What do you think?
It's a great question. My ego wants to share a story of my newest sponsee. I get a call one evening and he introduces himself. He says, "Can you be my sponsor?" I said, "Well, sure. How did you get my name and number?" "So I got your name from so-and-so at such and such meeting." And I'd never heard of the person and I'd never heard of the meeting. I encourage newcomers to simply ask for a sponsor during Burning Desires, when it's time to share, to say, "I need a sponsor." A lot of people might come up to you afterwards. Nobody might come up to you afterwards. You have to be prepared for both situations. We're all human after all. But I think that's the best way. I'm a believer in the God ordained sponsor. If you see somebody, ask them. Don't think about it too hard. I see so many people trying to choose their sponsor so carefully. Have God choose your sponsor for you.
Yeah.
I'll get back to Rebecca's point here, but I love this thing about choosing a sponsor, because one of the things that I learned after I reset my sobriety date in 2012
for using poppers and diet pills in a way that's not sober for me.
Speed that up, Don. And I took my picking out of the equation. I had now asked someone whose sobriety I respect, who do you think would be a good sponsor for me? And then I talked to that person about sponsorship, and it has served me absolutely wonderfully. This thing, Alice, you hit it, especially about sharing in a meeting about a sponsee. I'm not going to do that. Now, I might share an experience or a question, but I'm not going to share it in such a way that I'm breaking that sponsor-sponsee confidentiality. But to complain about a sponsee in a meeting, no, I would never do that, because the meeting is where we share in a general way. I've got sponsor and I've got trusted friends. I have plenty of people in recovery that I can talk about the specifics, the details.
Yeah. You've got to, I think, as a sponsor, work spiritually to get to that understanding of it's a privilege to have something to give. It is my responsibility to share what has been given to me so freely. And I do this for fun and for free. I'm not going to have anybody talk to me crazy or treat me bad, right? But I'm going to be kind and loving and supportive as best as I can. And so if I'm complaining about a sponsee, oh my God, I got to answer for them. That's an invitation for me to look at my program. That's an invitation for me to look at where I'm standing spiritually, because my annoyance is never about the other person. It's always about me.
I understand that meetings are just one part of the program, right? The book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and the Working the Steps is not a meeting. So a meeting is where we share our experience, our strength, and our hope.
To Rebecca's letter, she writes, I know, a meeting is a time for sharing on everything that affects my alcoholism. And I think the three of us are really offering a different point of view, which is the meeting isn't a dumping ground. I'm not there to talk about my weed cutter and my mother-in-law. And I am there to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous.
I hear somebody say, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think for newcomers, the meetings should be a safe place to share whatever they need to share. And I think it's up to the old timers to allow them a little latitude to do that. But I think you're great. What did you say? The weed eater? Yeah, the broken shower and all the problems in the I'd much rather hear from a newcomer.
Yeah, I'm not saying that someone with time and experience in recovery shouldn't bring a problem to a meeting, because I have definitely done that. And I shared what I'm doing about it.
Here's some options. Yeah.
There you go. There's one more thing I want to say on this, where Rebecca says, I then truly did not want to call anyone thinking they would have thought this about my call or worried I was bothering them. It instantly takes me back to a conversation I had with my grandmother. Granny didn't call me much because she didn't want to bother me. Granny, why don't you let me make that decision? And if I can take your call, I'll take it. And if I can't, I'll call you back. Instead of you making the decision for me, why don't you let me make the decision?
And Rebecca, I love when sponsees call me, and I'm delighted, because whatever crazy is happening in their life distracts me from the crazy in my life. Please call.
It's a God shot of interruption.
It's true.
Yeah. Thank you for the letter, Rebecca.
And Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a fantastic chat. I'm glad to get to know you a bit.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you to everyone who supports this podcast with a subscription to the Grapevine magazine, in print or in the Grapevine app. Your support makes the half-hour variety hour possible.
This joke submitted by JD in Big Lake, Minnesota.
My wife told me I have 2 major character defects.
Really? What are they?
She says I don't listen, and something else.
It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.